Hello everyone, I'm Ed. I think Ethan mentioned earlier, in the last sort of 2 weeks I've gone from thinking I've got a 5-minute to a 10-minute to a half hour back down to a 10-minute time slot. So I'm just checking what time it is so I can keep track. So as Ethan has said as well, I tend to get dropped in on last minute for talks. So just quick show of hands, who's actually seen me present before at different events? See, I'm famous. Because of that, I always have to keep like a little backlog of different things I'd like to talk about at some point, just on the threat that I might have to talk. The only problem is a lot of them are things where I don't know if I can necessarily go for like a full 10 minutes about them. So instead of a slide deck, I've just got like a regular deck of cards. I've written a different topic on each one. I'm going to need some audience participation, but basically pick a card and I'll talk about a random topic. Any questions? Sorted. Right, who wants to go first? I think you got your hand first. Pick a card, any card. That's a fun one. So first card is collaboration versus coordination, which I'm just trying to remember what I was thinking, because this is card number 30, and I made most of these in the last sort of 24 hours. I think, if I remember correctly, the point I wanted to get across with this one is just essentially your two main modes of interaction between individuals, groups of teams, whatever you know. You've got collaboration, which is where you're working highly together, and you've got coordination as well, where you can have one person coordinating and other people doing the tasks, but it's not necessarily as highly involved. I think the main point I wanted to make with this one was just simply be aware of the two, make sure to use them carefully, but also they can be useful in different scenarios. So to give a specific example, I was recently working on was working on a project where we had to do a large RBAC implementation. This covered about 80 odd engineers, and it's the sort of thing where every team needs to do a different change within their team. But you can't necessarily collaborate with 80 people to get a massive change done. So doing that upfront planning and then coordinating the teams to get their changes in often works a lot better when you're working with large groups. Conversely, when you need to come up with something creative, collaboration and working in a small group tends to work a lot better. Next card. Who wants to go next?
I'll help you.
Thanks.
That one?
That one?
I'm just checking that they're not the same.
Actually, you know what? Can you pick a different one?
Always. Okay, I like that one.
This is a fun one. I feel like I said that on the last one as well. Maybe I just like the cards. Except for that middle one. We don't talk about that though. So this one is the theory of constraints. Just quick show of hands. Who's heard of the theory of constraints before? Quite a few. I'm interested to see quite how many hands are down as well for a DevOps conference, but I'm on board for it. So the theory of constraints is one of the underlying theories and principles which led into a lot of the original DevOps thinking. But it's also directly cited as one of the inspirations for the Phoenix project. Sorry, I realise I've asked this before as well. Everyone here heard of the Phoenix project? Show of hands. Okay, most people. That was sort of not necessarily where DevOps actually comes from, but one of the books which helped popularise the concept. Andy, are you going to mention about this more? Andy's going to talk more about this later. But that was inspired by the theory of constraints. And essentially, the theory of constraints is the idea that in a system, you have a limited amount of throughput. So if I draw a couple boxes to represent a system, I don't know, we have business hypotheses on the left, which then go into software development, which then get deployed, which then generates value for our customer. This is a value stream diagram, by the way, just a very badly drawn one. The system is constrained by a certain point, which is the bottleneck. And if you're thinking through in terms of systems engineering, You can't improve the throughput of the whole system by improving any point other than bottleneck. It's a lot of terms, it's not a lot of words, but basically, let's say we can design, I don't know, 30 new software features a week, but we can only build 10, but we can deploy 100 because we've got an amazing pipeline. We can only do 10 a week. Because no matter how many extra we try and deploy or how many extra we try and design, we actually can only do 10. So what you tend to spot on systems like this is you'll end up with a pile-up of work in progress. In physical systems, a physical pile. On Jira, a lot of tickets in your backlog. But you'll end up with a big pile of stuff waiting to go through your constraint. That's usually a good way of identifying it. And if you do any improvements to any other parts of the system, it will improve it, theoretically, but actually it won't improve the throughput of the system as a whole. That makes sense to everyone? Can I get a thumbs up? That's a lot of thumbs up. Right, next one. 1 minute, let me check my time. Yeah, I've got another few minutes. Who wants to go next? Can I get one near the back? Okay, I've got Jenny at the back. I get to kill time by walking too.
Which one do you want me to pick?
No, I'm not going to pick one for
Go
you.
on.
Just pick any.
You're going to kill me tomorrow, aren't you?
No. I've got availability here. So in terms of availability, there's in the Phoenix project, just read that book, honestly. It's got a lot of very good stuff in it. But the best way to think about availability is in terms of, well, there's two types, sorry. Availability in terms of software systems, how often are you online? If your system's down, people can't request it. But I'm on about availability here more in terms of teams and team members. So I think the easiest way to think of it is if I'm busy 100% of the time, I'm 0% available. Conversely, if I'm busy 80% of the time, I'm available 20% of the time to pick up any new work as it comes in. So when we're thinking about these systems, one of the things which can impact lead time is overloading of the system, as it reduces your availability to pick up stuff as it comes in, which then makes it sit around longer waiting for something to be available. That make sense? Yeah, I'm getting a few nods. Cool. Right, I reckon I've got time for one more card, someone near the front, so I don't have to walk quite as far. You put your hand up a couple times now.
Can't read your writing.
Fair enough. So this is Goodhart's law, which this is where I'm probably going to get the wrong one because I should have written down a note. Goodhart's law, if I remember correctly, is the idea that any metric that becomes a goal ceases to be a useful metric. I'm getting a nod from David at the front, which is a good sign. Essentially, it's when you're deciding upon how you're measuring how a system works, it's very important to be careful with how you're using your metrics and not to necessarily go too much in on them. So an example where this can be useful, I believe it was UPS were having issues with their planes taking too long to load. And part of the issue they had was they were paying people lots of overtime if they took too long to do it. So they realised that if they switched to paying people just for the shift and they could go home early once they finished loading the planes started getting loading a lot quicker. Another example more specific to software though, if you measure a software team on the amount of tickets they can deliver, they'll start doing a lot smaller tickets in order to increase that number. Or if in terms of story points, they might estimate stuff higher than it needs to be in order to increase that number. So metrics are useful, but actually once the metric becomes a goal, people find ways to game the metric and then it stops actually being useful. Right. Any questions? If not, if you want to hear about something else random, I've got the cards in my pocket. Come see me afterwards. Thank you.